What I'd like to do now is to discuss how we can actually use Google Sheets to create charts. There are many charts and things we can create. Um, just to give you an idea, Google Sheets has something really cool. It's called Explore. So if you look down here in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little, I guess you call it a plus sign. And if you click it, it says Explore, and it says nothing interesting here right now. But if you scroll down, it says try selecting different data. Information with numbers works best. So watch what's going to happen. If I go to the upper left-hand corner, this box right here, it actually selects the entire spreadsheet. And Explore does some really interesting things. If you notice, it does some calculations which don't particularly make a lot of sense right now. But what it does is it actually creates some graphs. And you can actually take these graphs and pull them out if you wanted to. So for example, let's say I wanted to compare cost of tuition to cost of room and board for all my colleges. I could click and drag. Let me do that again. I could click and drag this out, and now I have a very nice chart of my costs for room and board, and I can click and drag this wherever I want to on the sheet. Let me just try to get this in here. I can click and drag this wherever I want to on the sheet. And now I have a very nice way. I have a very nice, very official presentation of my room and board costs. And you can actually see graphically, how much City College would cost versus, say, BU or Colgate or whatever college I have. This is very useful for presentations. You can do this with really any data in Excel, or sorry, in Google Sheets. Excel is the Microsoft equivalent. So if I keep going down, it actually tells you interesting. City College of New York CUNY has the lowest cost of tuition and the second highest room and board. So it kind of gives you a cute little summary. You can see that, for example, I'm researched equally public and private universities. You can get an idea of acceptance rates for your universities, etc. Now, some graphs don't make a lot of sense. So, for example, if I come down to cost of tuition, just another way to represent it is a pie chart. But if I think about a pie chart, a pie chart basically says that all of these things come together as one whole. But that doesn't really make any sense in this case. So a pie chart would graphically represent a whole pie of something, but you wouldn't be paying tuition for all these different colleges at the same time. So a pie chart wouldn't be best for this. It's always good to know what kind of charts you get. Now the pie chart is interesting, for the cost of room and board. You can see almost all of your schools are very equal in that regard. You could see distances from home, all sorts of things, and it gives you some ideas for charts. I also wanted to show you some other ideas for charts that you might have, so I'm actually going to delete this chart. Okay, I'm going to press delete. Okay, perfect. That worked. Let's say I wanted to see how the SAT, let's say the SAT 25th percentile was related to acceptance rates. So one would think, well, if my SAT 25th percentile is lower, then my acceptance rate might be higher and vice versa. So I'm interested to see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the SAT 25th percentile, and I'm going to hold down my command key, which is right next to the space key, and I'm going to hit R for acceptance rate. Now if you notice, both M and R are highlighted. And I'm going to go right here, which is Insert Chart. I click Insert Chart, and this gives me lots of different charts. There are some recommendations. I don't really want any of the recommendations. I want to go to Chart Types, and I would like to go to a scatter plot. Okay? And we learned about scatter plots way back in 9th grade, and we see that there is, if you were to kind of draw an oval around this scatter plot, you would see a slight negative correlation in this scatter plot. So I'm actually going to take this chart. So we have chart recommender here, and I'm going to go down. I like this chart. I'm going to hit insert, and it puts it in the spreadsheet for me. In fact, I'm just going to hit command, and I'm going to cut it out of here. Whoops. Okay, hold on. I'm still selected on my. Okay. So I'm going to cut it out of here. Sorry, this is taking me a little bit of time here. Whoops. I'm going to cut the chart. I'm just going to put it in sheet 3. By the way, if you wanted to insert a sheet is another spreadsheet within the same file. So you can press bloop and add sheet, and you can double click to rename it. So this one I'm going to write SAT versus acceptance rate. Okay. And I can hit Control V for paste. And you can actually see that there is a weak negative correlation between acceptance rate and SAT, which would indicate that perhaps the higher the SAT rate, the less percentage of kids get accepted. But remember, you're dealing with a very small sample of schools here. Also, that's not necessarily the case. You might have a small school that accepts fewer kids, but doesn't necessarily weight the SAT so much. But there is an interesting, correlation here, and you might want to see that, and you can actually see which school might be which school might be something that you're looking at to go forward. In fact, even more interesting is you can actually add what's called a trend line. So if you click any of the data points and you right-click on them, so if I shouldn't say right-click. If you hit Command and click the mouse, you'll see this little trend line, and you can actually see the linear trend line, which is going down. And so, in fact, we do have a negative correlation here between your SAT versus acceptance rate. So we're going to start, I want to show you tools that can be, used mathematically to explore certain things. And you can see very clearly that there is a negative trend between SAT, the 25th percentile, and the acceptance rate. All very interesting stuff. So there are lots of charts you can make, and in fact, one thing I would sort of envision is that you could even make a presentation to your parents, or you can make a presentation to your guidance counselors about your colleges and talk about the different colleges graphically as opposed to just with the information. All right.